You know, when Robert Bloch wrote Psycho, I don't think a lot of people thought within a few years his next big thing he would be known for was a Star Trek episode that was starring a giant of the era, a child star who was going on a sexual awareness kick, and who played in this episode kind of a female robot clone that was in love with its maker and basically would kill for him. It's called What Are Little Girls Made Of? Now, the Star Trek episode is kind of based in part on the female version of the nursery rhyme, What Are Little Boys Made Of? You know, puppy dog tails and all that. Now, this was the 7th episode of the first season of Star Trek, written by Robert Bloch and directed by James Goldstone. It first aired on October 20th, 1966, so it qualifies kind of a Halloween episode. Now, featured music was by Fred Steiner with great cinematography by Jerry Finneman. Although the production code said number 10, it was number 7 in the list. The first series to be repeated, first episode of the series to be repeated on NBC. The title of the episode is taken from the fourth line of the 19th century nursery rhyme, What Are Little Boys Made Of? And there's a reason why it's repeated, because Sherry Jackson, of course, who plays Andrea, what do you want to call her. Now, this one, the USS Enterprise, under the command of Captain Kirk, traveled to the icy planet XO3 to search for exobiologist Dr. Roger Corby. Corby was the fiancé of Dr. McCoy's temporary assistant, Nurse Christine Chapel, who signed on the Enterprise to search for Corby. At Corby's request, Kirk and Chapel beam down alone to a cavern entrance, but Corby is not there to meet him. Now, Corby does recognize Christine in the communication with the planet, but we can tell if something's off. Finding this suspicious, Kirk has 2 red shirt security officers being down from the Enterprise. This was well before the red shirts were in the episodes. One is instructed to stay at the entrance and keep a lookout, and the other accompanies Kirk and Chapel. The three begin to ascend in a system of caves. When passing over a deep chasm, the security officer disappears. Shortly after, they meet Corby's aide, Dr. Brown. Chapel recognizes him, but is surprised the man does not remember her. Brown assures them that the security officer fell by accident, and the three continue on. Kirk contacts the remaining security officer and tells him to contact the Enterprise for reinforcements, but a strange creature kills the officer before he gets a chance. Meanwhile, Kirk, Chapel, and Brown find Corby, who tells him that the caves were left by an extinct race. Kirby shows Kirk and Chapel machinery that creates androids, or pretty well robots a la Data. With the help of Ruck, a still functioning android from the time of the original inhabitants, Corby has created more androids, one being a beautiful woman he calls Andrea. Now, sex bot for sure, ladies and gentlemen. Brown is also an android. It is also revealed that Rook had killed the security officers. Now, Corby then creates an android duplicate of Kirk as Chapel looks on. As Kirk's personality is imprinted on the android, the real Kirk imagines himself insulting Spock as a half-breed. Corby has the duplicate Kirk beam aboard the Enterprise, with others to identify a planet suitable for creating more androids. When Spock questions the Kirk android's orders, none of your half-breed interference, do you hear? It repeats the insult Kirk had used. Spock, realizing that it's not Kirk, forms a security team to follow the Kirk android back down to XO3. Andrea encounters the Kirk android when it returns to the planet, and thinking it is real Kirk after he gives it is illogical. When she says basically, kiss me, as Kirk had kissed her before, she blows him away. It destroys him when he refuses to kiss her. You're better off in any type of confrontation to kiss. Now, the real Kirk then convinced Ruck that Corby's a threat to his existence. Ruck begins to recall the clash between the old ones and the androids that led to his civilization demise centuries ago. When Corby enters and Ruck confronts him, but Corby destroys Ruck with a phaser. Now, this is very effective, ladies and gentlemen, because the great Ted Cassidy plays Ruck, and he put him in shoulder pads and I think lifters. Boys, he's scary in this episode, and the makeup is just tremendous. There's a lot of one-shots or one-sheets from this episode, which kind of promoted that they give it that science fiction kind of spin. To me, the first season, this and The Man Trap are, I think, the two strongest of that category. Now, again, when the real Kirk can convince Ruck that Corby's a threat to his existence, again, Corby destroys Ruck with a phaser. Shortly after the struggle with Kirk, the skin of Corby's hand is torn, revealing that he too is an android. It is now revealed that Corby, dying of frostbite, had transferred his mind to an android body. He begs Chapel to believe that he's still the same man, but Chapel is repelled by what he's done to himself. Andrea, realizing she loves Corby, kisses him, and in despair, Corby fires Andrea's weapon between the embracing pair, destroying the boat, which makes absolutely no sense. Better to kill her, not himself, but that's the way it goes. Spock arrives when his security force, but finds that a crisis had passed. When Spock inquires about Dr. Corby's whereabouts, Kirk replies Dr. Corby was never here. Chapel decides to stay on with the Enterprise and finish out her tour of duty. Spock then tells Kirk about his dismay of using the term half-breed to warn that something was wrong. The captain says he'll remember this should he ever find himself in a similar situation. And later on in the episode where Spock is infested by the spores, it's kind of using the same thing to bring it back to reality. So now, the episode again was written by Robert Bloch, but received rewrites during shooting by Gene Roddenberry. Yeah, I know you wrote Psycho, but I can make it better. Now, the director of the second pilot, where no man has gone before, James Goldstone, was hired to direct this episode, but due to problems with the script, shooting went 2 days over schedule, and Goldstone was not rehired, or basically was fired, but not fired. Now, Sherry Jackson, who we did a recent podcast on, who plays the android woman Andrea, said that he had a sensor on set to make sure their costume fully covered her breasts, and that side cleavage was not visible. Well, she had what he called pigeon breasts. We saw them in Playboy. She didn't have big boobs, but, now she also said to William Shatner, I must say when he kissed me on screen, he really kissed me. And that Shatner's chest had to be shaved for his nude scenes in the android machine because Gene Roddenberry felt that Captain Kirk would not be hairy. Now, reference to the works of H.P. Lovecraft have been briefly made in Bloch's script, with his mention of the old ones and a look up the trapezoidal doors in the caverns. Now, Zach Hadlin of the AV Club gave the episode a B+ rating, noted that the repetitive plotting took away from any real sense of threat, and that without Spock or McCoy to play off, Kirk's character is less interesting. But having him spin one version of William Shatner completely naked and turning in the fake Kirk is quite impressive. And the fact is, the old ones. Ted Cassidy, a very underrated actor. This is probably one of his strongest performances that wasn't, typical episodic. But see, Ted Cassidy was a very underrated actor. Now, just to go into a little bit of his career, of course, being on the Addams Family for a lot of years, his best science fiction works were known again as Star Trek and I Dream of Jeannie. And he died way too young, ladies and gentlemen, at the age of 46. Now, he also was in Storybook Squares playing Tarzan with Cheetah. Now, the native of Pittsburgh, he was probably one of the biggest actors of his generation, and he worked TV and radio as well in unusual character roles. Now, for the 1960s, Ted Cassidy, again, was suffering with something called acromegaly, an endocrine disorder. It was an overproduction of growth hormone for the pituitary gland. This has been debunked by his son, Sean Cassidy, on the Son of Lurch interview on YouTube. Ted Cassidy was just tall, 6'8", as his son Sean was 6'7", but he had that kind of Andre the Giant, look. Now, he died unfortunately from a benign tumor operation that was removed from his heart. Complications arose several days later when he was recuperating. He was readmitted to hospital, and he died on January 16, 1979 at the young age of 46. Now, he played 3 episodes of Star Trek. He played the Gorn, the voice of the Baylock puppet, the Corbomite maneuver, and Ruck. And these are all season 1 episodes. Now, he also played Frankenstein Jr., voice in Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles. Phyllis Diller, he was on the Monroes, Beverly Hillbillies, Mr. Terrific, Meteor Man on Birdman and Galaxy Trio, just tremendous. He played Galactus on the Fantastic Four, the voice, tremendous voice actor. The New Adventures of Huckleberry Finn with 20 episodes. He did McDonald Land, Officer Big Mac, all voices. And again, the Addams Family animated show, Harry and Walter Go to New York, The Bionic Woman, $6 Million Man, where he played Bigfoot twice. And Andre the Giant had played Bigfoot, almost the Donald Snowman. But his voice acting was tremendous. Ladies and gentlemen, Ted Cassidy, to have him as a as an actor, a voice actor, and a dramatic actor. To see him in Star Trek, again, a big part of everybody's youth as a kid, and he is dearly missed. That's why we're doing that, not only because of our female ingenue, but Ted Cassidy, boys. If he would have lived, the 1980s would have been his totally. There was a lot of big roles he could have done, no pun intended. And it probably, like the Marvel Comics kind of versions now, he could have played an X-Men or Avenger or villain. It didn't matter, he had the talent. So that's the story of the many different talents in What Are Little Girls Made Of? A Psycho involving a member of the Addams Family, and a Playboy model, all mixed together. So ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're doing here with our Star Trek podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.